Good morning. My name is Shelley Byrne. I'm the Ohio River Valley correspondent with the Waterways Journal. With us today, we have Joseph Powell, president of Maritime Defense Strategy, LLC, and he's going to be presenting to us on vessel and facility security, cybersecurity with TWIC evaluation. Maritime Defense Strategy, LLC, and Ephesian Security co-founder Joseph Powell has been involved in the law enforcement industry for more than 20 years. He first started his career in the U.S. Coast Guard, where he served for 4 years along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, enforcing multiple federal regulations. From there, Joseph was accepted among an elite cadre of individuals to join the U.S. Secret Service. While in the U.S. Secret Service, he was assigned to the Dignitary Protection Detail, where he provided protection for the UN General Assembly ambassadors to the United States. Now, for the last 14 years, Joseph has served as the president of Maritime Defense Strategy. He's been responsible for the creation, implementation, and maintenance of more than 250 facility security plans and facilitated and developed more than 2,000 security drills and exercises for more than 100 companies nationwide and has trained more than 1,000 security personnel. We want to thank Joseph and thank our sponsor for this session, Maritime Defense Strategy, LLC. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Joseph.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Shelley. Thank you for the introduction. And let me go ahead and get the PowerPoint up. And we have the PowerPoint up. Good morning, everybody. Like Shelley said, my name is Joseph Powell, and I'm the president of Maritime Defense Strategy. A little brief about myself, what Shelley already gave you. And currently, we here at Maritime Defense Strategy are part of 14 U.S. Coast Guard Area Maritime Security Committees throughout the United States in 14 different sectors. Myself, as part of the National Maritime Security Advisory Committee, the subcommittee for the evaluation of the TWIC card program. I sat on that committee about 5 years ago for the evaluation of the TWIC card program. And today what we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about some of the security features and some of the aspects of the TWIC card program and what I see on a daily basis dealing in the waterways areas with vessels, vessel security plans, and how the implementation of the TWIC card program through vessel security plans and vessels is a little bit different from how facilities conduct and facilitate and implement the TWIC card program in their aspects. So as we know, the TWIC card program aims to ensure persons who successfully undergo a security threat assessment are able to receive a TWIC card. The point of the credential includes a biometric fingerprint template that positively links the credential holder to the identity of the individual to whom the credential was issued for. The TWIC card holder will be issued a PIN number. Before in the past, whenever TWIC card first initially came out, you got to choose your PIN number. You had the responsibility of remembering it. Now, however, they send you a pre-generated TWIC card PIN number, and that usually I find individuals usually keep that number with them and with the TWIC card on their persons. However, as many of y'all know, you probably have never used your TWIC card. You've probably never put it into a card reader unless you're going to a CDC facility or you're going to a pilot program that the Coast Guard used between 2008 and now. So that PIN number for some is useless, and for some it's used on a daily basis. So in addition to the individual's credential being revoked by the TSA if disqualifying information is discovered or presented by the TSA, so you can have your TWIC card revoked at any given time. Once it's revoked, the credential should not be used to obtain any type of unescorted access to any restricted areas or secure areas of a vessel. While an owner-operator is currently not required to verify the TWIC is revoked, if the individual has knowledge that an individual or employee of theirs have committed any types of crimes that are against the use of a TWIC card or would disqualify them from actually having a TWIC card, then it is responsible of that owner-operator to ensure that the individual does not gain unescorted access or access at all in general to the vessel or the facility. The TSA has designated the TWIC process to maintain strict privacy controls so that the holder's biographical and biometric information are securely protected. As some of y'all may or may not know, there is a application on iPhones and Androids that the TSA has released, and it's called the TWIC Advisor app. This TWIC Advisor app just simply reads the card, reads the number behind it. It doesn't give the biometric template behind it. It won't show a picture. It will not show a date of birth or any of the things that are held in that biometric template. It just verifies whether the TWIC is good or is bad against the cleared card list. Now, the TWIC requirements do not apply to mariners, credentialed or uncredentialed, on facilities working immediately adjacent to a vessel they are employed aboard. Oftentimes, facilities mistake and want to always see a tankerman's TWIC card when they're getting on or off to read load lines, to tie up the vessel. This is not required. The TWIC NAVIC clearly outlines that mariners, while they're adjacent to the vessel, allows them limited access to the area immediately adjacent to the vessel to conduct operations in support of the vessel. Like I said, attach shorelines, perform maintenance, read load lines, load stores and bunkers without escort. This provision can be used also for foreign mariners and U.S. mariners aboard regulated vessels by 104, who would not otherwise be required to obtain a TWIC card. Now, for some individuals, TWIC is not required. The following populations do not require a TWIC card for unescorted access, and those are federal officials, state and local law enforcement officials, and emergency responders when emergency situations at hand. For federal officials, when includes employees of the federal government, may only gain unescorted access during the course of their official duties. Now, oftentimes people look at the Coast Guard and think that it's a TWIC card in their hand. It's actually a CAT card that is actually regulated by the HSPD 12 compliant credential guidelines. Those are all military identifications. Those are the identifications of Customs, Secret Service, ICE, Border Patrol, OSHA, EPA, all have HSPD 12 compliant credentials, and thus do not have to have a TWIC card and can go unescorted when need be. However, most of the times they're not going to go unescorted. They're going to have facility or vessel personnel with them because they're there for a reason. But just know that their identification still has to be checked. It still has to be logged in your access control logs. But however, they do not need a TWIC card. Now, state and local law enforcement officials may use this exemption in the course of their official duties. However, if you have an off-duty police officer that's moonlighting as a security guard in the evenings, they would still have to have a TWIC card because they're not in official duties. Now, that does not go the same for ports who are called upon by the Customs to secure vessels for individuals who are not allowed off the vessels that they see not fit, and they need to have an armed guard in front of those vessels. Oftentimes we have ports who call upon our local sheriff's departments or police departments to put an armed personnel there. And in that case, that state and local law enforcement official is acting in their official capacity and will not need a TWIC card. Only if they're off duty, not working with the uniform on, they have to have a TWIC card. Now also emergency responders. Now, this is interpreted those emergency responders employed by a government agency or any medical personnel may gain unescorted access only responding to an emergency situation. So if you have a fire or an EMS situation, or say you have a gentleman, say your pilot on your tugboat has a heart attack and you call EMS, you're not going to check their TWIC card when they board or ask for a TWIC card when they board the vessel. You're trying to get your captain or whoever it may be off the vessel in a timely manner for medical assistance. Okay, so those individuals will not, during the time of an emergency, do not have to have a TWIC card. Non-state local emergency responders, such as OSROs, our oil spill organizational employees, will need to have a TWIC card because they have not been designated as an emergency response personnel. in accordance with the regulations by the Coast Guard to not go without a TWIC. So at first, many OSROs lobbied to not have to have TWIC cards. However, it didn't come to fruition. So now majority of your oil spill response organizations do have TWIC cards. Now we're going to go over some of the security features of a TWIC card here. I had some handouts that I put over in the taskbar over to your right hand side. You'll see a highlight where it says handouts. If you click on those handouts, you'll see one of those handouts where it says TWIC security features. It'll say TWIC old. That is the old TWIC card. Those are the TWIC cards that are good until about 2023 because the new TWIC cards came out July 7th of 2013. And as we know, that the TWIC card is still good for 5 years. So you'll see many of these older style TWIC cards still in circulation. I myself still have an older TWIC card, and mine doesn't expire until 2021. But we're going to go over some of the TWIC security features here real quick. I know you can't see it on this screen, but in the handout, you'll be able to see the thin blue line that's going completely around the card actually says Transportation Worker Identification Credential. What this is called micro printing. This micro printing is used because it is harder to distinguish between inkjets and laserjet printers. Can't always do these precise defined printing elements that these cards require, and that's how we ensure that these cards are actually legitimate. The ultimate way actually to ensure that this card belongs to the appropriate user is the picture. If you look at this picture, you can see numerous dots on the back, in the back of the background, or on the face, or on the shirt of the individual. Like Mr. Campbell, you can see here that he has a lot of dots all over his yellow shirt. Okay, those dots are blue and red, and they actually say TWIC, each of those dots. So how do you ultimately verify this card is that you look for those dots, and then there's a black light feature in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you get your hands on a black light, you shine it in the bottom right-hand corner, you can actually see the seal of the Department of Homeland Security. But most people don't have the black light, so why is it important about the picture? It's because numerous times in that I've caught personally through various different ports is that truck drivers are the world's worst at selling these things at truck stops for people who are going in and out of ports. So you'll have a truck driver, either he can't get a TWIC card and the truck driving is his last resort because he's had some type of law issue, right? Some type of arrest issues, right? And now he's driving a truck and he needs to get on the port, but he doesn't qualify to get onto a port because, as we know currently, if you have a major drug charge, you have to wait 5 years to get a TWIC card. You cannot work at a facility or a vessel if you can't get a TWIC card. Okay, and so they sell these things. What happens is that an individual will buy a TWIC card. He will take a passport photo. He will stick it over the top of this photo here, and he'll run it through a laminator and stick it in a badge holder. Well, knowing how security guards can be and are in most parts, that they're looking at two things. They're looking at the picture, and they're looking at the expiration date. Only 50% of guards ever look at the actual name and compare it with the bill of lading or a second identification. It all depends on the security posture at that facility, that vessel, or that port. So that's how they bypass the system, because either they don't want to pay the $50 to $75 escort fee to get escorted into a facility port, or they can't even get access to a vessel. So they forge a TWIC card in this way. So you can see they have numerous holograms on this TWIC card, on the old TWIC card. From the top right hand corner to the bottom left hand corner, we have stars that start from the right and go down to the bottom left. They start off where they're filled in, and then they become hollow. In the center of the card, you'll see a triangle that says Privacy, Commerce, and Security, and it's got 3 half moons around it. And then the bottom right-hand corner has the nuclear sign, as I call it, also as a hologram. The chip, the RFID chip, is offset to the left embedded in the card with rounded edges. This is significant because at first, whenever these cards were coming out in 2008 and 2009, the way they were being forged is that they were being run through a factory, and that Nokia SIM chip cards were actually being put on these cards and kind of used with a Dremel, cutting out a hole in them and super gluing in them. It was in Port Fourchon, Louisiana, where a security guard held her card up every morning, and she knew hers was valid and legitimate, where she had workers coming into the port. She would look at their card compared to her card. She caught over 30 migrants with fake TWIC cards coming into the port of Fourchon back in 2008, 2009. And this is the way they were doing it. So those are some of the security features of the old TWIC card. Like I said, this card is still going to be good until 2023, July-ish timetable. So now, currently, what I've been seeing out in the field of dealing with the 100 and 150 facilities that we have here at Maritime Defense Strategy that we take care of, facilitating all their drills, exercises, and audits, along with various different vessels, is that the majority of the people still have the older TWIC card, and that the newer one is only about in 25% circulation right now, especially in the vessel area. On the waters, it's even lower. Only at facilities where there's a larger turnover rate with security guards is where we see the higher amount of newer TWIC cards. Now on to the newer TWIC card. As you can see, there are wholesale changes when it comes to the newer TWIC card. One of those changes that you will find interesting is the expiration date. If we look back at this expiration date of the old TWIC card, you can see that it's very easy to turn that 2013 into a 2018. You can turn a 7 into a 9. This was one of the main reasons and the main ways that TWIC cards were getting forged, because they didn't want to go out and get them renewed, or they forgot to get them renewed, so they ran back to the truck and turned that 7 into a 9 real quick. So with that, the Coast Guard and the National Maritime Transportation Security Center and the RAND Corporation came up with this new style of TWIC card that integrated a color-coded system to the expiration date, and we'll go over that here on the next slide. But currently, some of the things that we have here is, if you look at the ribbon that goes around the TWIC card, kind of like the old TWIC card, but this one is more visible, and it actually just says TWIC in between each of those stars, and it's not as hard to see. It's still micro printing, but it's not to the extent that the older card was. On the top right-hand corner, we have our compass. Now, that compass goes from just a plain compass to a compass with a flag to just a flag. And you can see that representation of that on image 6 on your right-hand side. In the center, we have the eagle. That's multicolored, the rainbow colors. And then we have the picture that has the stars across the face. That's one of the main reasons that you can verify that card is through that picture still, because of the holograms of the stars that go over the front face of the TWIC card holder. But one other thing about the picture is that now on the right-hand side, it is embossed with actually your TWIC number. Your TWIC number is embossed in the card on the right-hand side. And so if you ever have somebody who tries to take a passport photo and throw it back through a laminator and see it, you're going to lose two distinct security features. You're going to lose the embedding of the card number, and you're going to lose the hologram that goes over the face. Okay, so right there are two distinct things that you will lose if one tries to become forged. At the bottom right-hand corner, we have the TWIC with the propeller. That TWIC goes from green to gold to red, all depending on the light. All right, so outside you might see that it goes to green to red. Inside, under ultraviolet light, you might see it stays gold. So it changes. So don't think the card's fraudulent just because that bottom left-hand corner is not always changing colors. It's not always going to. Then we have the hologram with the rope in the center. In the far right-hand corner as well, along with the TWIC and the balls that alongside of it. But one other feature you'll see if you get one of the handouts, and you'll see the handout that says new TWIC card has all this listed in there. And you'll actually see, if you look close, it's all called micro printing. If you look on the bottom right-hand corner of the vessel, you'll see how it's much lighter, and you can actually see the dots in this part. In the dots here, you'll see how they get closer and closer together throughout the cards feature, and that's all called micro printing, because once that happens, all right, if you ever print this thing out, what's going to happen is that you're going to see it just like it is here right now. You're going to see it with all the holograms blown up in multi-different colors, and you're going to see that boat is going to be a solid piece, all right? Either it'll be a solid piece, or on the bottom right-hand corner, it'll be missing a section of blue or white. It won't be completely compatible, because a lot of people just try to print this out, cut it out, and stick it over a driver's license or a subscription card they may have, right? So they try to take a regular card that they have in their wallet from Costco, Sam's, or wherever it may be, or even I've seen one that's actually done their gym membership, and they just they cut this out, right, and they glue it on top of it, and they put it into a card holder, right? Because once again, like we said in the past, they flash the card, they see the picture, they see the expiration date, the security guards do, and then that's it. Then they say you're clear to go. It's only whenever the security guards actually remove the card from the actual case and verify it. So there are different techniques people have used in the past to actually get through security. However, security guards are getting more and more well trained. I train on an average over 500 security guards a year just in TWIC cards. And y'all can probably imagine, 500 security guards a year, that's a lot. You ever run out of security guards? No, because there's an 85% turnover rate in security guards, wherever you go. Now with the training, it's even harder for vessel crew members, right? First mates, deckhands, and all. They get this training probably once initially whenever their hiring process. All right, here's how many MARSEC levels there. Here's what a TWIC card looks like. Here's the escort ratios. These are the things we need to go over. But if you don't use it, you lose it. And there's not always a lot of people coming on and off your vessel, except for crew members, of course. So it's one of those things that we try to ensure that we give proper training programs to the company, to the shipping companies that we deal with, from ADM to Magnolia Marine Transport, to the individuals like that and those companies, where we try to provide a subsequent training program for them. Now, as I discussed earlier, the expiration date. As you can see here, no expiration date is going to be in the same color. The color codes go 6 years out on average. So you can see from 2018 to 2024, there's no way possible that you can actually forge the color codes on this new card. This is one of the reasons why this new card was made up with these color codes on it. But one of the other features behind this is that it requires for security guards and for deck crewmen, for them to have the knowledge and to actually have this handout that you have the ability to get to your right, that they have this on them on board the vessels. So a lot of the times when we're going to do audits or training, we actually bring this handout with us, and we ensure that wherever they're doing their access control at and where people come on and off the vessel, that this is there so they can ultimately verify that the new TWIC card is actually dated properly and that it's verified against this list. So you can tell that blue, purple, gray, green, and red and black are used, and that it's already slated out to 2031. And still, the TWIC is still good for 5 years. There is no more 3-year renewal. That ended back in 2012. The 5-year renewal is consistent and has been since then. So as discussed earlier, and as you can see better in these pictures here, the far left-hand corner are these stars, shaped design partially covering the photograph with color changing and viewed different angles. It's part of the laminate, actually. It's not actually part of the card. Same thing, you got the TWIC letters visible in circles, designs using an LED source as well. and number 7. Now, there is no black light feature in this card. It is all holograms and micro printing, because once again, we found out through the process of doing the review of the TWIC card program that the majority of people did not have black lights or realize that the black light feature even existed. So they nixed the black light feature that Rand Corporation did, who's responsible for the development of this card. And they just strictly went with micro printing and more holographic features. As you can see on the back of the card, we have where the version of the card, number 11, you see the TWIC V 2.303.14. That is to allow individuals like me, the TSA, and other security professionals to know what security features are actually associated with this TWIC card. Because if you know, in the past with the old TWIC card, it had 3 different versions of that TWIC card, and it changed its security features multiple times. And one of those biggest things was like on the TWIC, where it said TWIC, it would actually say trademark or registered or not at all. And that was one of the biggest features that you could tell what version you had by what the TWIC logo actually said. In the back of the card also, we got the address where it can be mailed if found or lost. The TWIC Center, it goes straight to the TWIC Center, and then the TWIC Center will contact you if it is if your TWIC card is found and reported back to them. And then the barcode on the bottom the bottom of the card, that's actually used in the TWIC Advisor app. Anybody can use and utilize this app. It's called TWIC Advisor. Just go to the App Store and look for it. What it does, it uses your camera to read the barcode on the bottom, and what it does, it verifies your card against a cleared card list and ensures that it is valid. Now, also, you need to look at the card and at the individual to ensure that the picture on it still matches the individual and the security features as well. You just cannot go by the TWIC Advisor app. It does not meet the requirements by the Coast Guard. Now, what happens if a forged or tampered TWIC card is actually presented at a facility or a vessel, or it's suspected to be fraudulent, and according to the security features listed that we went over, at minimum, you're going to deny the individual unescorted access to the secure areas of the facility or the vessel. The owner-operator may, of course, grant escorted access. However, tampering with or creating a fraudulent TWIC card may be a violation of federal law. Great care should be exercised with respect to these individuals. Even though this comes straight out of the NAVIC 0307 and is the guidance from the TWIC card, from the Coast Guard, I always advise my clients not to allow individuals escorted access, even if they provide an additional identification. Okay. It's just if they're willing to fraudulently mess with a TWIC card, then who knows what else they're willing to do. Okay. And who knows why they want to come into the facility. All right. Now, I know there's different reasons why, or there may be, hey, I just forgot to update my TWIC card, like we talked about earlier, turning the 7 into a 9. Oh, I got to get to work today. I got to do this real quick so I can get to work today, and then I'll go get it later, right? Still, it's fraudulently been done. The individual needs to be addressed with the individual, the owner operator, the captain, the facility security officer, those type of things. Okay. Now, if you do suspect the TWIC card to be fraudulent or tampered with, always encourage security guards, vessel personnel to take a quick snapshot with their phone of the TWIC card, because ultimately you cannot take the TWIC card. You cannot take the TWIC card from them. You can't not give it back to them. You still have to, if they want it back, you have to give it back. All right. However, the requirements is that you call the Coast Guard in conjunction with any other notifications in your VSP or your FSP and inform the duty officer that the TWIC suspected to be fraudulent has been presented, and the name on the TWIC card and the alternate ID if presented, and any get names given, all right, and how the TWIC appears to be tampered with or signs that indicate it's fraudulent, all right. Follow any instructions that the Coast Guard is going to give you. If directed by the Coast Guard, ask the individual to stay at the access control point or alongside the vessel, but still don't allow him on board the vessel or on board the facility. Now, the owner-operator is not required to make any attempt to restrain the individual or to inform him or her or he or she that they cannot leave at any time, all right? If the person wants their TWIC card and wants to leave, well, you know that, they had bad intentions and that there was no way they were going to stick around for the Coast Guard or law enforcement, all right? So we know the ability for the owner-operator to take the TWIC card is all dependent on state law. The Coast Guard cannot authorize you to exercise the law enforcement authority, and owner-operators should contact their own lawyers to discuss the recommendation of actions. Many times I find that basically crew members are just going to go rogue and do whatever they see fit. Like, I'm taking the card, I'm putting it in my pocket, and I'm telling them they can leave. I often get that answer. Then I have to pull out the NAVIC, the 307 NAVIC, say, well, according to the Coast Guard, we need to do X, Y, and Z, and what's your company policy? What does your company have laid out for you to do for a fraudulent TWIC card? And also, it should be in your vessel security plan as well. There is a requirement for disciplinary actions in your vessel security plan, your facility security plan, for if a fraudulent TWIC card is presented. So I'd encourage all y'all to go through your vessel security plans or your facility security plans and check and see what your actually policies and procedures are, because a lot of times it'll just be a copy and paste blurb straight out of the NAVIC where it just says, we'll institute disciplinary actions as we see fit. Well, you need to ensure that you have your company policies in there, because if there's any legal issues, then you have your facility security plan or your vessel security that can go by. Now, if the Coast Guard shows up, they will attempt to match the biometric template stored with a TWIC card fingerprint using the individual's card during the inspection or examination of spot check. All right. The Coast Guard will attempt to do this 10 times. All right. According to their NAVIC, they will attempt to verify that TWIC card against that individual 10 times. And if not, then further actions will be taken. And that'll be up to that local Coast Guard captain of the port, law enforcement, to see what they want to do with that individual. Now, where can you find TWIC guidance at? Now, we have numerous related TWIC guidance. You can find the NAVIC 0307, which is a complete guide for TWIC. We have the PAC 0107, which gives you exemption of law enforcement. All right. So all these things that I was telling you today and that I've mentioned are not straight from Joseph Powell or Maritime Defense Strategy. They're actually guidance by the Coast Guard that they have set out, and they're in these documents. They can all be found at the link below, as well as the PACs can all be found there. And they're all the way from exemption of law enforcement to redefining secure areas, restricted areas, railroad workers in TWIC, access control systems, physical access control systems, and integrating TWIC card into already existing systems that you may have. All these things are listed on the following websites. Homeport, if any of y'all have the Homeport account, I know many of y'all do. I know it's a rough go right now with Homeport, with it not being properly updated and it being managed, and it's just everything that's going on with COVID. And even before COVID, it's not exactly what we were hoping it was for, but it's still there. It's something we have to work with, and it's still providing guidance. It's still providing documentation, and it's still a way for the Coast Guard to talk to industries outside of the area maritime security committees and direct contact with your local representatives. All the way down from the federal level to your local Coast Guard is where you get your information from on the Homeport. Now that we discussed TWIC, we have some other areas that we're going to discuss with cybersecurity. Not necessarily have to do with a whole lot of vessels, but vessels are still very much part of the cybersecurity issue when it comes to the maritime transportation system. Because what we have to do is we have to remember that 75% of all U.S. commerce in one way, form, or fashion is transported via the maritime transportation system. 90% of the world's trade is done through the maritime transportation system. So knowing what's happened to the Port of Rotterdam, to Maersk Lines, to ADP, and right here, ADM here in Mobile, Alabama. These are all cyber attacks that could have been prevented if we've had some cyber hygiene, if we've had cyber protocols put into place, and but now those are going to come to fruition. So in September of 2021, the Coast Guard has released that you'll have requirements that you have to meet and within your vessel security plan, your facility security plan for cybersecurity requirements. Okay. The vessel side, the facility side, excuse me. Facility side, it will be more than that, right? So until about 2010, the majority of cyber attacks were driven by an attempt to obtain personal, financial, sensitive data. Today, the nature of the threat is changing, and companies across all business sectors have begun to experience highly sophisticated and complex attacks that attempt to inflict damage to property operations by seeking to control of industry control systems. And you'll see on the right-hand side, you'll see several cybersecurity handouts. One was released back in February, outlining the new requirements for September of 2021. Another one was just released last week and actually talks about the Coast Guard and its implementation of a cybersecurity command within the Coast Guard, and that they have 3 response teams that are going to respond to your company in helping you properly assess your IT and OT operations for your facility and your infrastructure, and they can run different tests with you. They can help you with penetration testing, and they can help you with mitigation strategies, implementation. Their CTS systems, they're called. And that handout is on your far right-hand side as well for you to have. Now, cyber attacks hits Costco and its U.S. operations. For an example, in 2018, the highlight of the year was a cyber breach affecting Costco operations in the port of Long Beach. All right, on July 24th, which affected the Giants' operations. The company's network broke down and some electronic communications were not available as a result. However, operations outside the U.S. were not affected, while less than a week later, its network applications were totally recovered. However, they lost millions of dollars in that time that they were now able to offload their products at the U.S. Port of Long Beach. Okay, they lost goods, they lost fruit, they lost commodities. Things spoiled, they lost $1 million in revenue, and it caused a supply chain issue in dealing with Costco for over a month in stocking their stores. So, are we going to be proactive or reactive? In this case, Costco was being proactive. However, it was a simple step of missing a network patch that they needed to do, a security patch. Within the system, which they hadn't gotten around to, and became a vulnerability for them. So that is one of the issues that IT departments face on a daily basis is, dealing with all the updates, integration, and all of the systems, and still maintaining them. Because the majority of IT systems at facilities are undermanned, underfunded, currently. So this is a problem and an issue that's being addressed on a daily basis through, all the way from Fortune 500 companies all the way down to small mom and pop operations that own one tugboat along the waterfront. Now, for the largest cybersecurity attack here, only 5 days later, on September 25th, the U.S. Port of San Diego experienced a serious cyber disruption as its IT systems, which made the port employees to work in limited functionality. It's still unclear if the 2 incidents were related, but most people do believe that they were related, that it was a attack on the west coast of the United States for our major ports. As you can see, the Port of San Diego and Long Beach are in the top 10 of the nation's largest ports. Long Beach is number one. So you can see that it actually had an effect on commerce in the area and throughout. And more recently, in late October, Australian defense shipbuilder Austal, which is home ported in Mobile, Alabama, right here beside me, and they're in Australia, which constructs ships for the Royal Australian Navy, U.S. Navy, and Royal Navy in Oman, became the largest widely known company to be hit with a cyber breach, as its data management systems, with hackers demanding money from the company in major for stolen data. However, the impact was not major. They were able to get the critical systems, critical designs, so that was a plus on behalf of Austal. They have a robust cybersecurity team there at Austal. One is a good friend of mine, and that they are able to recover within just a few hours. Now that Coast Guard Cyber, the CPT teams, the Marine Transport Systems, you can see in that handout, and this is a copy of that handout, where you can see where they are out front, and these teams offer cybersecurity activities to the maritime transportation system, like we've already discussed. It has a contact phone number, email address. It's called maritimecyber@uscg.mil. Give them a call, let them know, what you may need. As far as I know, it's free of charge. And they're just trying to get the maritime transportation system up and running. And I know many may be like, well, I don't know if I want the Coast Guard digging in my systems. Well, that's totally up to you, and I can understand that. But just know whenever you have an incident or a breach, that they're going to be coming to see you, and they might have had some of those actions that could have mitigated, had mitigation strategies to prevent what you've had. So basically, it's a catch-22 when dealing with it. But I would actually recommend it, and I've actually sent this to all my clients, recommending that they use these services for cost-saving measures for one, and to really garner up support and have a working relationship with the Coast Guard, because as we all know, it is critical, because they are our regulatory agency, and they are who we lean on for bad times and in good times. Now, on February 26, 2000, the Coast Guard released the NAVIC 01-20. This NAVIC provides guidance to facility owners and operators in complying with the requirements to assess documents and address computer systems or network vulnerabilities in accordance with 33 CFR 105 and 106. Now, I know the majority of the people that I'm talking to today have 104 vessels. However, some of my clients who also have 104 vessels also have barge fleeting areas. All right, those barge fleeting areas are regulated by 105. Thus, you're going to have to be compliant with this as well with your 105 barge fleeting area. All right, you're not exempt from this. All right. So in turn, it does touch the vessel waterways management systems and the transportation system. So it's just not going to be just 105 and 106. It will touch 104 vessels and barge fleeting areas under 105 as well. Now, currently, Maritime Defense Strategies has already submitted 15 security plans and gotten them approved in 4 different sectors throughout the U.S. For the cybersecurity guidance requirements. Now, the requirements are not required until September of 2021, as when you're going to have to be compliant with these. I've also included that NAVIC off on the right-hand side as a handout for you as well, to ensure that you comply with it, or that if you need assistance with it, you can just let us know, and then you can get with your Coast Guard. Now, a lot of local Coast Guards are different in the requirements that they want. Some want just generalizations, where some want actually policies attached to the facility security plan. It all is all dictated by your Coast Guard inspector, the Coast Guard captain of the port. So I would encourage everyone, before they get with their captain of the port, already have your policies and procedures in place for how you respond to any type of cyber attack, and your policies and just IT overall. And then if you see any of those, that's when you would contact your Coast Guard and those CAP teams and see if they can be an assistance to you in any way. And then contact your Coast Guard representative and sit down with them and see exactly what they would like to see within your security plan. The biggest quantities of information that you're going to have to put is going to be initially in your risk assessments that are required. You're going to have to lay out the whole policies and procedures in there and how IT and operational technology, OT, interact with each other. And you'll actually see that verbiage used in this NAVIC that the Coast Guard gives you. So basically anything that you're able to manipulate from valves to vessels, electronically steering, you have to actually account for that in your assessment, because it has been already proven that a vessel's navigation systems can be taken over. The University of Texas did it in 2013 on a yacht that was off the coast of Texas, off of Galveston, and took over its IT system and drove the vessel themselves, took it off course and all, as a demonstration that it actually could happen and that it's no longer isolated from cybersecurity attacks. Now, under the current regulation of the 105 and 106, including outer continental shelf facilities are required to identify and assess their radios and telecommunications equipment, including computer systems and networks, and update or revise their FSA, which is their risk assessments, and the FSP to address and mitigate any identified vulnerabilities. This enclosure discusses the regulatory provisions and provides facility owner operators with compliance guidance. It does not change the legal requirements. Facility owner operators already in compliance with regulatory requirements will remain in compliance. This enclosure provides examples and recommendations on how to meet applicable requirements. Notably, the examples of the enclosures not representations of minimum standards or required levels of demonstration compliance. So that's why I encouraged you to actually get with your Coast Guard, captain of the port, or your local MST, to actually see what they want and see how they're reading these guidance. Because as you can see in the NAVIC, they leave it wide open for interpretation in that it's not representative of minimum standards or required levels, right? It's basically going to be up to your captain of the port and your inspector to go over your security plan with them, and they make the determination whether it's good enough or not, right? Now, that's not like I know that's not what we want to hear, but I can tell you off of the 15 that we submitted in the 4 different sectors that they've been exactly the same verbiage, the same amount of content, and every single one of them's gotten approved, and they've had no issue with the lack of content or too much content. Okay. There's only been one time where somebody wanted the actual policy attached to the plan. And that was just because that's something they wanted to see, that where it was relatively available to the facility security officer. All right. The rest of them just wanted to know that it was there, they saw it, and that it was relatively available and everybody was getting trained under it. All right. And that leads me to another thing. During this, you have the requirements for training, you'll have the requirements for access control, you'll have the requirements for loading and offloading vessel stores, bunkers, and your cargo. All right. If you're doing transfer of fuels and all those as well, all those actually have to be listed in your security plan as well. Now, why are we talking about facilities when we're at the IMX conference? That's because many of the vessel owner operators own barge fleeting facilities, like I've already discussed, which fall under 33 CFR. All right. So vessel owner operators cannot just simply ignore the regulations until they are sure it doesn't affect them. All right. So I'd encourage everyone to go out, read the regulations, see if you're required. Excuse me. See if you are required to implement this into your security plans in any way, and then get with your local Coast Guard and see what they'd like to see out of your facility security plan or your vessel security plan. All right, we're gonna open it up for questions, and I will see if I have any here. If you need to contact me directly, I will leave my information in the public chat box, so you will have it there. And I'm sure that logging onto the IMX conference, you can obtain the information from there as well. But we're more than happy to answer any of your questions. We don't charge for any questions and answer sessions that we may have, and only if we're actually rendering actual services to you. So feel free to give me a call if you have any questions. And it was a pleasure talking to y'all today. And I thank IMX and the crew for giving me this opportunity. And we look forward to doing it next year with hopefully more updates and more knowledge about cybersecurity and the implementation of the cybersecurity NAVIX throughout different sectors. Okay.
Thank you, Joseph, very much for that very informative chat.
Yes, ma'am.
To thank Joseph, thank all of you who attended this session. Certainly thank our sponsor, Maritime Defense Strategy, LLC. I want to let you all know that recordings of this session will be available here at the same website that you went to within a few days. We expect those to be up until about Thanksgiving, so those are available. We also want to remind you to visit the Expo Hall. You can engage with the exhibitors there. There's also a networking lounge where you all can network with one another. Upcoming sessions we have at 11 o'clock, there is the Tier 3 Solutions session presented by Carl Center. And this afternoon at 1 o'clock, there are a couple of sessions. There's the Louisiana Gateway Terminal and Inland Container Vessel Update. And also at 1 o'clock, we have a session on women and millennials in maritime. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Once again, thank you.